The Asics Magic Speed 3 and the Adidas Takumi Sen 9, two very fast shoes, but very different shoes that will suit very different runners. Comparing the Asics Magic Speed 3 and the Adidas Takumi Sen 9 isn't exactly a fair fight because one of them is a very stripped down racing shoe and the other is a very good and fast tempo trainer that you can race in. But on paper, these shoes may not be the same or in the same category, but I do think there's probably a lot of runners looking at both of these shoes and trying to figure out which one is right for them. The best place to start to really understand the differences between these two shoes is to look at the specs. So with the Asics Magic Speed 3, we have 36 mil of foam in the heel with 29 in the forefoot, with giving you an odd 7 mil drop. The weight comes in at 7.8 ounces or 220 grams, and that's the US men's size 9, the reference size that everyone uses. We have FF Blast Plus throughout the entire midsole of the Asics Magic Speed with a full carbon fiber plate. It also, as you can see from this photo, has a very extreme toe spring and really kind of nothing else in the midsole. It's all toe spring. Now with the Adidas Takumi Sen 9, we have 33 mil in the heel, 27 mil in the forefoot with a 6 mil drop and a weight coming at 6.6 ounces or 187 grams. The Takumi Sen is a ridiculously lightweight shoe. It truly is a stripped down race shoe, whereas the Magic Speed has a race shoe pedigree because essentially the Magic Speed 3 is the Metaspeed Edge, the original version. The geometry, the materials, everything about the shoe is fundamentally the same as the original Edge, except for the foam. The Magic Speed is using FF Blast Plus as opposed to FF Turbo foam. Now, back to the Takumi Sen, we have full Lightstrike Pro midsole with the forefoot only energy rods. So the energy rods only go from about the midfoot to the forefoot. There's nothing under the heel. And we have a very mild rocker geometry. And I can't stress that it's very mild. It's not a very rockered shoe. Now, the on-foot feel and the way these shoes run really is the difference here. Let's start with the Takumi Sen. Now, the Takumi Sen is, as I keep saying, it's a stripped-down race shoe. But what's really interesting about this comparison is that this is full Lightstrike Pro, and again, it has the energy rods system from about here to the forefoot. There's nothing in the heel. But this shoe, given what we have here, is fairly flexible. I would not call this a flexible shoe, but there's more flex here than you would expect. It's definitely more flexible than, say, the Adios Pro 3, but it's more substantial than, say, an Adios 8. So there is some flex here. Compare that, though, to the Magic Speed. I'm putting the same force into the shoe. I can barely flex this thing. This shoe is stiff. I always feel like Asics' carbon plates are twice as thick as everyone else's carbon plates, especially Nike's carbon plates, because they are stiff. I had this same issue in the Metaspeed series, both the original and the Plus. It's just very stiff, but it works in this shoe. I'll come back to it. Let's talk about the upper, though, between these, because that, to me, the fit of these shoes is really the biggest difference. Now, this upper is very clean compared to the Adios Pro 3, which I have a whole video talking about how bad that upper is. This is a very good upper, and I think until the Adios 8 came out, this was Adidas' best upper. It's still a very good upper, but the Adios 8 upper is just a little bit better. It's a little bit cleaner. Just everything's a little bit better about it. But this is still a very good upper. But the problem with the Takumi Sen is that this is a classic Adidas fit, meaning it's very narrow and kind of long. Though I'm a size 9 US men, I went true to size in this. I don't really have length issues, but I do have massive narrow issues. I don't have a wide foot either, and this shoe still is very narrow to me. Now, I keep calling this a stripped down race shoe, and it fits and it feels like a race shoe. This has a race fit to an extreme, to the point where this shoe is one of the most uncomfortable shoes I've ever put on my foot. But as a race shoe, I'm fine with that because I want performance, I want speed. This shoe gives you that. Now moving to the Magic Speed, the upper on here, I would also say is a race fit. Again, this is essentially the same upper that was on the original Metaspeed Edge. I think the Metaspeed Edge Plus, the upper's tweaked a little bit, but this is the older upper. It's still a very good upper. It's a very containing upper. It is a race fit. This shoe does have the weird Asics race shoe sizing, meaning it fits a little small. Again, this is a size 9. I went true to size in this, but I definitely do not have much room in the toe in this. In fact, I kind of feel the front of the shoe with my big toe. But running in the shoe, I don't have any problems because the lockdown of this upper is very good. The race fit and the way this kind of hugs the foot, it's a very good upper that I don't have any sort of slop in. Whereas with the Takumi Sen, it's also a very good upper, but it is a little long. So I do get a little sort of my foot shifting forward, even if I lock it down well. In this shoe, you can lock it down well, but it does take a little effort. And when I'm really pushing on interval work, I do feel my foot creeping forward in this, which I don't love. Coming back to the Magic Speed, as I was saying, with the midsole on this, we have FF Blast Plus, which I think complements the very stiff carbon fiber plate. In the sense that with the Metaspeed Edge, I always thought that shoe was just overall too stiff, too rigid, because FF Turbo is a much firmer foam when comparing it to FF Blast Plus. And the softness or the bounciness of FF Blast Plus works very well with the combination of the extremely stiff plate. So when you're landing forefoot in this shoe, and again, because of the extreme toe spring in this shoe really gets you up there in your toes. And if you already are a midfoot or forefoot striker, this shoe is really going to put you on your toes. But again, it works. The stiff plate in here with the bouncy FF Blast Plus foam, it works really well. I wouldn't call it the most comfortable shoe, but compared to the Takumi Sen, which to me is kind of torture to wear, even though it is extremely fast, the Magic Speed 3 just, I think, is a better, more accommodating training shoe, which, again, this is a tempo trainer, so I would expect this shoe to just fit a bit better. But that's not to say it's got a sloppy fit or you couldn't race in this shoe. You definitely can. I did do the workout that I did in some other comparison videos, mostly from the Takumi Sen 9 versus Adios 8 and the Adios 8 versus Streakfly videos. This is the same workout, though these were different sessions. So I've now done this workout twice in the Takumi Sen 9, though this was the first time I was doing it in the Magic Speed. So looking at this workout, let's start with the 4x1 minutes. So for the Magic Speed, I got 347, 345, 346, 348. Okay, it's fast, it did the job. The Takumi Sen gave me 349, 345, 348, 347. Honestly, not a ton of difference between these two, and I wouldn't expect there to be much of a difference over sort of a 1 minute blast at what is essentially pretty much like a 5K pace for me at this point. Where it starts to get interesting, though, is in the longer. So the 2x1K with the Magic Speed 3, I got 419, 417, which the Magic Speed is the fastest of the 3 or 4 shoes I've now run this workout in. And the Takumi Sen gave me 420, 421. I also felt like the Magic Speed was less effort to get that speed. I remember feeling like I was sort of floating and kind of flying in the Magic Speed than I did the Takumi Sen workout the day after. And I just remember feeling very sluggish in the Takumi Sen. Just like I couldn't get the right foot placement. I couldn't get my foot strike right. I just didn't feel on that day. That obviously has something to do with it. But again, I think the geometry of the Magic Speed and that extreme toe spring suits me better as a forefoot striker. Now, where it gets a little bit more interesting is with the 200s. With the Magic Speed, I got 40, 40, 41, 42. And the Takumi Sen, I got 38, 41, 39, 40. Now, I would expect the Takumi Sen to be faster here because I think this is where Light Strike Pro is really helping out. If you're really driving into the ground with an interval, the better super foam of Lightstrike Pro is going to treat you better. I think this is where FF Blast Plus falls down. I talked a bit about this in my Nova Blast 100 mile review. There'll be a link in the description. FF Blast Plus is great up until the point where it's not. And where it's not, it gets too squishy. It turns from bouncy to squishy really quickly. While I do think the carbon fiber plate is helping stabilize and make FF Blast Plus much better in the Magic Speed, meaning it's much faster, and the stiff plate with the softer, bouncier foam complements one another. It's not the shoe that I want to do intervals in. Frankly, neither one of these are the shoes I want to do intervals in. I want to do these in the Adios 8 or the Streakfly. I want that flex. I want to drive into the ground, and I don't want a lot of foam under me. And both these shoes are just too much. But again, Lightstrike Pro is just going to give you a better result for really pushing it around because it is a top-end race foam. What's the verdict here? Well, maybe it's kind of obvious, but for me, what am I going to pick? It's going to be the Magic Speed. I just, as a trainer, which is really what I'm looking for in this shoe, I'm not going to race in either one of these shoes. For a trainer, particularly as a road racer and a marathoner, this is more useful to me because I like the toe spring. I like the stiffness of it, especially for getting me up on my toes. And I think for training tempo work, I think a shoe that is a little softer, a little less extreme than, say, the Takumi Sen 9, is just going to work better. The other key thing about this shoe is that I think it actually pairs really nicely with the Vaporfly. And there is very much a relationship between these two shoes in sort of the geometry, in the toe spring, in just how these shoes work. Though, oddly, this is much less stiff than the Magic Speed. It's not to say that Takumi Sen is a slouch. This is not a slouch. But again, I said this in my first impressions video. I think this is maybe the most niche shoe you could possibly buy. And I think this is the ultimate 5K racer. But I'm a marathoner. I don't race 5Ks. And if I did, I'm going to race it in this. This is going to be faster for me. But this shoe just, it's great. I'm glad it exists. I love running. I love running in it. I just don't like wearing it, which is a weird way of talking about a shoe, because it is so fast. And when you do get your foot strike kind of right on point, this shoe really sings. But you need the form and you need the fitness to really get the most out of this shoe. And again, I'm not racing 5K, so I don't need this. As a trainer, I want something that's a little bit less extreme for that tempo work. And for interval work, I'm not going to do that in either one of these shoes. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do that in an Adios 8 or a Streakfly because I don't want this stiffness of either one of these shoes. So between these two shoes, the Magic Speed definitely will win for training. For racing, I think you can race in this. And I think this is a very good race shoe for a lot of first-time racers because FF Turbo is much more forgiving. The combination of the plate and FF Blast Plus in this shoe is much more forgiving compared to, the full-on super shoe with FF Turbo. But definitely for training, or if you run a lot of your easy miles in a Nova Blast, this is a great sort of complement to that. Even the Super Blast, this is a great complement to that because you're getting a lot more stiffness with some of the bounce that you're used to from either one of those shoes. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you're new here, subscribe. You'll see more content like this pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video. It helps this channel continue to grow, which I'm always appreciative of. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.